Welcome back, Star People. This is APM, your intrepid star guide and cosmic detective, and you're tuned in to part 2 of our dyatlov past investigation. And today we're going to go even deeper into the mysterious events that unfolded that fateful night. And before we begin, if you're loving these cosmic investigations, please like, share, subscribe, and review. 5 stars help others find us in the vast podcast universe. Follow Outlaw Astrology on Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest for daily cosmic insights, and don't forget to sign up for our daily Stargazer newsletter, your daily dose of celestial wisdom, or links in the show notes. One last thing, this is a content warning. This episode discusses death, extreme weather conditions, unexplained phenomena, and mysterious circumstances. So do take care of yourself, if need. And now on with the show. And hello. So we're going to be talking about lunar mysteries and mountain whispers. So we're curious about what the moon was doing and is doing. Now, as we checked, it is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is all about the mystery. How to deal with the mystery, and how Scorpio energy, moon and Scorpio energy, tends to deal with mysteries is investigate them, is to get curious about them, to investigate who they are in reference to a mystery, in reference to the experience. That's how Scorpios stay safe, is by questioning things, by being curious about things, facing the unknown in a way that most other signs of the zodiac probably wouldn't. And so, during a key moment like this would be like, it could be seen as like a cosmic silence before the cosmos. I would see it as more of a, being that this is Pluto ruled, and by the way, Pluto was in Virgo at the time of the event, which was on the 1st or about the 2nd of February of 1959. The chart I cast had to be a night chart because some of the people in the event of 9 hikers that went missing and then who were found deceased on a very tall mountain range in Russia, which was communist Russia at the time, they were, as I said, well planned. That moon in Scorpio wouldn't have just dashed out any more than that Pluto and Virgo would have. By the way, Pluto and Virgo would be calling shots on that moon, and you'll see that energetically, the moon in the 2nd house, which is about resources, and Pluto in the 12th house, which is about the unconscious, but also retreat, withdrawing, and hidden trace, and blind spots also. Okay, so it's calling the shots from the 12th house of the unseen, meaning that a detailed route, one can do everything right. Make all the right choices. Do everything to keep yourself safe and to keep others safe. You're with 8 other people, and how does this happen? But we all have examples in history in which there were tons of people around and people still died or got hurt. So in this case, 9 people, experienced hikers, going to get their certification, trying to summit a very tall mountain, which, by the way, is mountain climbing and hiking is actually quite dangerous. It's an extreme sport, and one must plan ahead. You can't just decide one day to climb a really tall mountain dressed in a jumper. That'd be, for you Americans, that would be a sweater and a pair of, your favorite trainers and your favorite gear. You can't do that. You have to plan ahead. It's quite cold up there. The altitude will make the air a lot thinner, and you have to be able-bodied and experienced to summit anything. So these were not just people who decided one day to do so. They were very experienced. They were also university students going to the local university. They had the town's support. Their parents knew. It wasn't like they planned a one-off. So you can plan ahead. Pluto and Virgo are calling shots on that moon in Scorpio, which would be all about dotting those I's, crossing those T's, and still things can get out of your hands. That's the lesson you can take away from here. Now, Mercury, let's have a look at what it's doing. Now, Mercury is hanging out alongside the Sun. They are co-present, but they are not conjunct. It is in the 5th house. It is in Aquarius, in a sign that it quite likes. So, humanitarian, progressive sort of vibe. And the Sun in Aquarius is not a comfortable place for the Sun to be. By the way, as I said, this is a night chart, so not the most comfortable place to be. Mercury in this particular chart is it is direct. I like to check the coordinates. It's in the 5th house, as I've said. It is at 21 degrees south, 32.25 seconds. That basically means it's south of the celestial equator. And it's in the 5th house. That means speculating, being creative. So Mercury communication would be humanitarian communications. It would be community uplift. I mean, this entire hike was supported by the university, supported by the town, supported by their parents. They had, the government bodies were supporting them. It wasn't as if nobody supported, nobody knew what was going on. They had all the support that they could possibly need. That's also a moon thing. And Mercury suggests that whilst this was probably very progressive and a bit more of an adventure and very thinky and impartial, this was not done with a terrible amount of emotion. I mean, I'm certain there was excitement, but it was very stand back, let's think logically. Let's look at Black Moon Lilith, and that would be the lunar apogee, which would be the furthest point of the moon in its orbit, in the ecliptic around the Earth. And that would speak to hidden forces and primal fears. So let's look and see what Lilith is doing. Lilith is hanging out, co-present at 4 degrees of Taurus in the 8th house. The 8th house is also about death. Transformation is a form of death. Sometimes it could mean death quite finally. Mars is also there, so co-present with Mars. Mars is would be shaping the expression here. Mars would be about motivation. It'd be about sticking to the plan. It would be about not necessarily innovating per se. It would be about being determined, being resolute. And Black Moon Lilith is about those repressed parts of us, the parts that we hide or don't want to see or not comfortable with. And it could be also the fact that we're just bloody stubborn. And if we stick to the plan, or to a certain degree, if we, stay calm, stick to the plan, we might make it out of this. Could that be a way that they could possibly have been thinking? It would make sense that if you've planned to come all this way and do all this work, that you want to go further. And eventually, as I've said, the leader of the group even ends up with 3 other hikers down in the wooded area where it would have been wise. And of course, we can all armchair speculate from the safety of the 21st century in our warm homes and, and drinking tea. They didn't have that at the time. But that Black Moon Lilith in the 8th house of death was, it could be due to a stubborn determination to not maybe disappoint people. I mean, a lot of support was going into this. Uranus is hanging out in the 11th house, and there's a lot of support. And with that much community support, it would feel uncomfortable to disappoint people. Okay, so let's step into the collective karma and cosmic echoes. So we talked about briefly the nodal axis. Let's step into that a bit more for a few moments. And so the north node is in Libra at 15 degrees. The south is in Aries at exactly 15 degrees. both nodes are on the descendant for the south and on the ascendant for the north. The north is in Libra. Venus in Pisces, which is in its strength and in the fifth house, is calling the shots. So lots of faith. You did your due diligence. You've got, like I said, Neptune and Scorpio, co-present with the moon in the second house of resources. So they were conservative. They probably made conservative estimates about what they could or could not do. But keep in mind that when we're younger, we tend to have more enthusiasm and a desire for independence and adventure that older people might not have. So they had the support of community. It just so happens that something, unexpected happened. And so the 8th house is definitely the house of death, because I don't think anybody in this circumstance thought to themselves that it's for one moment that they wouldn't make it back. Who thinks like that? Nobody. You're pretty much thinking to yourself, I am going to make it. So group destiny, shared path for this particular event. The North Node in Libra would be about learning to work with a team, to be diplomatic, to compromise when necessary, to, yes, bring up challenges, but to support the group when the group made a decision together. Because this is more of a safety in numbers type thing. The South Node would be independence, blazing your own trail, going your own way, which would be unwise in a situation with an extreme weather event that had already caused death and could cause death for the last remaining few people who were still alive as the end of April. The end of, they were found in May and probably survived well into just a bit past the 1st or the 2nd. I'm sorry, I misspoke. They survived to the 1st or 2nd of April of 1959, which means this last group stayed alive the longest because they found themselves down in the wooded area instead of being on the mountain slope where a lot of that extreme weather, meaning the wind, was getting up. Okay? And so we've got that nodal axis, meaning that nobody goes off on their own. And if you do, in a situation like this, choosing independence would probably be unwise and result in people not making it out. Some of the people did try to go off on their own and found themselves unfit for the circumstances, meaning the weather was far too cold, it was far too windy, and there was low visibility. And so almost whiteout conditions probably, or even just darkness. And so the ability to see clearly would have made it difficult to get a sense of direction. And the nodal axis is definitely about direction, meaning that let's stay together, let's pool our resources, let's see if we can make it out of this thing, let's share a path rather than trying to go off and do it on our own. That's the 1st and 7th house axis. Now we've got Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is in Scorpio, and as I said, so is Jupiter. They are co-present. Neptune is at 6 degrees and Jupiter's at 28 degrees. 6 degrees is very caring, very nurturing type energy. That is, but it's also Virgo energy, wanting to serve, wanting to help. So there would be a desire to help our fellow hikers survive in the best way that they could, to take what we know to help everybody else out. Jupiter is in Scorpio, and that would be the good news. Is it's peregrine. Not the most comfortable experience for Jupiter. And at 28 degrees would be a 1, so kind of a desire for courage. It would require courage. These circumstances are extreme circumstances and require courage to face them out, and also endurance, which is what that Mars is talking about. At 25 degrees, it is forming a opposition. So Mars and Jupiter are opposing. each other in this particular chart from the 2nd and the 8th house respectively. Jupiter is all about, the feelings being, all about the big feelings, but it's also in facing the unknown, facing it resolutely, to be honest about what's going on, whereas that Mars opposition between the two would be resolute, determined. I have to make it through. We have to do what we have to do to survive this. We got to do what we got to do. Okay? Kind of energy. Oppositions offer us the opportunity to make choices, to see things we wouldn't ordinarily see in more extreme circumstances, because extreme circumstances require us sometimes to see outside of our comfort zones and our boxes, which is basically the comfort zone. And so Mars is about, in an Earth sign, is about endurance. And Neptune is about confusion, and deep, intense confusion brought on by an unexpected circumstance. Uranus, even in Leo, it would still, to the community, this would be an unexpected blow to the community, because this was a community effort. That's, that's the flow of the energy, the astral energy going on that particular day. And there's a lot of intensity, a lot of intense emotions. That makes perfect sense. So Jupiter, Neptune, we're looking at expanded awareness, but we're looking also at the cosmic mystery and an endurance. Can we persevere? Can we make it? Could the stars have warned them, kind of vibe? And to be clear, I do not have an answer to that. I really don't. This is why I do these sort of episodes, to try to ask questions that perplex me, because sometimes things just doesn't seem, and I know the word I'm going to say is fair, but sometimes life is just perplexing and unfair, and sometimes I just need to look at the skies and ask why. And so Saturn would be providing those harsh lessons. And so survival lessons is at 2 degrees of Capricorn, hanging out in the 4th house, which is not a comfortable place for Saturn to be. It prefers the 10th house. The moon is happier in the 4th house, which is the house that it has an affinity to. But Saturn happens to be here hanging out at 2 degrees, which is the Taurus degree, is what I would call that. And so very focused, very determined, very resolute. And this is about survival. And also boundaries. What are the limits of your physical endurance, your mental endurance, your emotional endurance? What wherewithal are you carrying within you to be able to get through this? Because Saturn brings harsh lessons, and in this case, I can't imagine any harsher lesson than being out in the cold in a circumstance where it's dark and it's cold, and you don't have great visibility, and you don't know exactly what's going on just yet, and you're a little confused, and an unexpected storm has risen on you, and you've done everything you can to stay safe, and it still got away from you. Okay, so it's also about authority, because they did have people to answer to. They had their family, they had university officials, they had town officials, also to answer to. So it wasn't as if this was just a free moment of adventure between young people. It was a supportive thing, and that's where the authority comes from. And it's in the 4th house, as I've said, so that's house of roots, belonging. So they had very strong roots in the town and the village that this event happened to have occurred in. And so looking at some astroforensic revelations, here are some thoughts on the matter. Let's look a little bit deeper into this chart and let's see if there's anything that I have not covered. So let me look and see who Saturn is having a chat with. By the way, as I've said, Venus is in its exaltation. It is at 0 degrees. It and Saturn are forming a sextile. And that means whatever idealistic leanings any member of the group might have had on that particular day, because Venus is about values as well. From a psychological point of view, it's about values. When it comes to the unknown, it's about the ethic. It's about ethics, but it's also about the values of a situation. And it also speaks to idealism. And idealism can lead to blind spots, the things you don't see or are unprepared for. Saturn is here testing those ethics, testing those values, testing that faith, and saying, are you sure about this? Are you sure it's right to have faith? I mean, this is a good idea at first, but having faith in this expedition any further beyond a certain point would have appeared to anyone looking and sitting on their shoulders as a bit foolhardy. We've got Neptune also talking to Pluto. Pluto's at 3 degrees of Virgo. This is detail-oriented. This is also very service-oriented. This is having a high standard, a high goal, and doing what you need to do to dot those I's, cross those T's, and see to it that, everything goes as according to plan as much as they can. There is also a trine aspect between Saturn and Black Moon Lilith. And Black Moon Lilith is about, what we repress. And what we could be repressing is, it's fine to push on, but there also has to be a time when we stop, take stock, and say to ourselves, this has gotten away from us. And it's probably unwise for us to try to proceed further. What do we need to do in the moment? Now, I'm just speculating. I have no idea what actually happened. I'm really curious. I really would like a time machine. But if I got a time machine, I'd want to save people. I can't help myself. So what is unseen is sometimes a course of action, no matter how deeply planned for or wanted, has to be walked away from. But it may not have been so easy to walk away from this when so many people were counting on this, and they may not have wanted to disappoint people, including themselves. And let's see, let's look at one more thing. And it also forms a square with Eris about standing your ground and up for what is right. I think internally, and these are people in their 20s with the exception of one person, they wouldn't have wanted to disappoint people. They didn't want to disappoint themselves. As I said, this is a community effort. A lot of people are involved to make this happen. They would have felt very disappointed in themselves and disappointed in their ability to not summit so they could, go back triumphant. That is just a very human thing. To want to not hurt others, to not want to disappoint people, to want people to be proud, to want to be proud of yourself, for example. So when we're looking at Saturn aspects here, we're looking at those hard lessons that one must face. But if we look at Mars aspects, we've got, like I said, that's a square, which I mentioned in the first episode. There's a square between Mars and Pluto. Now, Mars is in an Earth sign, and Pluto is also in an Earth sign. But this is called a dissociate square. It's probably not going to be experienced in the same way as a square between, like, say, for Leo and Taurus. That'd be a harder and more tense square. This one has a little bit of support, which suggests to me that there's too much of the steadfast, too much of that practical, steadfast earth energy can sometimes get in the way of being able to think outside of the box, as it were. That sun is in Aquarius, hanging out at the bottom of the chart with Mercury alongside. They are both co-present. And this is the house of pleasure, so hobbies. By the way, hiking would have been a hobby. These were engineering students, by the way. Hiking was probably a hobby, was fun, lots of pleasure. I imagine they probably thought it was going to be a great time that they were going to have before things started to go, way off course. And we've got Chiron hanging in at the 21st degree of Aquarius, also in the 5th house, co-present with the Sun and Mercury, not conjunct. And what that basically says is being progressive, being innovative, humanitarian. So there might have been more utopian ideals associated with this particular exhibition and what it could do for the town, what it could do for the students. I mean, I think it was more of the kind of thing you do when you want to bring shine to your name and bring shine to the region that you happen to come from. That's very human in my opinion. And so I could ask the question, could the stars have warned them? And let me just be honest, even at this time as I say this, I'm not entirely certain. I think the stars can give us questions. I think it can help us comprehend things, but I do not think it's possible entirely to predict things. I think it'll give us themes. I think it'll say, watch out for that, pay attention to this, and probably, give another look at that weather report just to make certain, double check our plans. And to be clear, as far as I know, given what I've read of these students, I think it's more likely that they probably did as much as they could, as much due diligence as they could in the moment. And like I said, things can still get out of control, even though you planned, dotted your I's, crossed your T's, you were determined, you were responsible, because that Saturn is in Capricorn, and it's at 2 degrees, which is a Taurus degree. Very responsible. They were responsible, and things can still get out of hand. And I think that'll be it for this particular episode. And so the key takeaway we can have here is that sometimes the universe speaks to us through synchronicity and also silence. And in exploring these cosmic patterns, we honor both the mystery and those who are part of it. So, another thing I want to say is that the whole point of astrology, or looking into the mystery and the unknown, is to better understand ourselves, to better understand the mystery within us, to better understand our connection to the mystery and to the unknown and to that which we cannot explain. There are those edges, the unexplained within us, and trying to understand and comprehend the mystery and the unexplained and the unknown outside of us, it makes, hopefully, us better at being able to comprehend those forces within ourselves. So if this episode resonated, share it with a fellow cosmic detective and stargazer. Until next time, keep questioning and keep looking up. This is APM, your cosmic star guide. Peace and astro magic.